Hop on with us as we dive into the latest topics, share some laughs, and bring you insightful conversations in and around the realm of ag. From down-home wisdom to cutting-edge tech, we've got what you need to fuel your curiosity. So tune in, relax, and let's kick back. On the Tailgate, presented by Wade Incorporated.
Welcome back to another episode on the Tailgate. I'm your host, Cade Moody. I've got Gaston Line in the co-host spot, and of course, Riggs Ware in the producer slot. And we got a special episode today with Mr. Frank Brumfield, who's the chairman and CEO of FSB Companies and a Delta native. So, Mr. Frank, thank you for coming to join us on the Tailgate today.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me here. Quite the honor.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm excited about the conversation. I know we've kind of gone over some stuff, and it seems like it's going to be, it's all going to be very interesting. So, look, of course, we want to hear all about FSB and some of the local investments, but really I want to start out. Just tell us a little bit about you, your roots, and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Well, first of all, I was born and raised on the farm in Inverness, or about 7 miles west of Inverness. 4 boys on the farm. And my childhood was, I would call, a mixture of magic and a lot of hard-ass work. That's sort of, I grew up literally camping out on the Sunflower River on the sandbar. And at the same time, my dad would come down the hill and grab us and say, boys, it's time to roll, and throw us on a tractor at age 10 or 11. And from then on, that's the only job I had, actually, until I went to Chicago when I graduated Mississippi State. So I worked for the best boss there was, my dad, but also a pretty tough boss at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What kind of crops were y'all working with during those days?
We did a little bit of everything. We did. We had cattle back then, which seems to be kind of coming back around now, thanks to Dr. Bennett and some of the others around here. But we did. Got into catfish when I was in junior high. So Hardy and I were the night managers on the catfish during the night, and then we'd work on the row crop during the day. So we had row crop as well, raised cotton and soybeans.
Cool. How did the move to Chicago come about?
So the move to Chicago came about. I'm a little bit older than you guys. So I was at Mississippi State from 84 to 88. And about my sophomore year, I could see the writing on the wall at the farm there. My dad was hustling hard, and it just wasn't going to be enough to go around for my younger brother and I. My 2 older brothers had already kind of gone different directions, and one was a lawyer, and then one was in finance. And Hardy and I had pinned our hopes on coming back home and sort of being come back and run the farm and being entrepreneurial and bring back some new technologies and different things. And this is going to sound wild to you guys, but that's when GPS and things like that were really starting to get going. Mm-hmm. And we could see how that could really help. And then even the use of computers on the farm and things were just coming along. So this was 86, 87. And my dad basically told us if he had a good year, we were going to break even. And that sort of that was sort of what was going on at that time. It was just a tough cycle. So he kind of pushed us to try to figure something else out. And he goes, hey, if it just doesn't work out, come back to the farm. We'll figure it out. But the last thing you need to do is come back and rent some land and get in a hole that you'll never get out of. It was just that type of cycle at the time. So I went to Chicago my junior year at Mississippi State, my spring break, and got a pass to get onto the Chicago Board of Trade trading floor, and walked on that floor and knew right then, every hair on my back stood up, and I knew right then, I said, this is going to be my opportunity. This is true capitalism at its best, and this is where a good old Southern boy from Mississippi might have a shot at changing his life potentially. And so started studying the markets a lot more and started paying attention to my dad and how he was hedging crops and doing different things. And strangely enough, when I got to Chicago, didn't have a job, so I was going around trying to interview for a job, and the grain room was just 3 or 4 generations deep, so they weren't going to let a good old boy from Mississippi in there. They had been doing this for 3 or 4 generations. The financial room was sort of the Wild Wild West, so it had just started maybe 4 or 5 years before that. A lot of opportunity there. I ended up hooking on with a guy from South Carolina who heard my accent and ended up hiring me because of that. He's like, because I got to help this guy out because he's never going to get a job. So anyway, I did that as an apprentice and worked for a couple different people. Actually worked my way up and started trading at night and was working during the day. And then you have to take a test and you have to prove that you're worthy of actually trading. And then you try to figure out some way to borrow some money. So I borrowed some money from my older brother who had a little success, and then my dad, and scrapped together some money to start trading and leased a seat, and did that for 18 years and traded financial interest rate futures. So that's how that happened. In the meantime, always in the back of my mind, ag is something that I love and wanted to be a part of. Just honestly didn't have the time then. I was raising 3 kids and trading day and night. And in that game, if you're not committed to it 1,000%, pretty much like all jobs, but in that one, you can lose everything you got real quick.
Overnight.
So anyway, it was a great way to change my financial state, but it comes at a price. I mean, it comes at a price. It's a tough way to make a living.
Well, you mentioned that it was probably a shock when you got there, but how was that transition from what you had grown up on, the farm life, I would say, and then into more of a financial? Did you? I don't know. I think about from when our days in college, and then just out of nowhere going to Chicago and doing something like that would have been out there, I would say.
My move to Paducah, Kentucky was a little different than the move
to that was not that far away. But I don't know. Did you get some of that financial knowledge while you're in college?
I did. So I had I got an ag econ degree at State and a minor in business. So I was studying the right things. But as you know, those markets I was dealing with was mostly the grain markets, right, and cotton markets. So. But all markets sort of, they all have a kindred spirit the way they move, and we all know they go to where they can cause the most pain. So it's human nature. So you got to figure that science out. But to be honest, when I got up there, something that came in handy that I grew up with working for my dad and just being around my mom was they were too busy. I see kids now, and kids are sort of they're taken care of from the minute they're born all the way through. I mean, my mom and dad were working so hard. There was just a lot of independence, so there's a lot of trust there. And there's also just a lot of accountability and chores and work and all that. So all of that came in very handy in Chicago because you were just sort of I was on a different planet when I landed there in Chicago. And we had a couple of guys from State who were knocking around in the markets up there, and I had an older brother up there. So that came in very handy, those relationships. But you just had to get in there and battle and figure it out, and that's what I saw my dad do as a farmer. I mean, he was an entrepreneur, and that's what kept our farm going most of the time. He would do other things besides just farm, whatever he had to do.
Find a way to make it, yeah.
And that spirit just sort of what carried me up there, right? I mean, my dad walked in the pit one time and stood beside me, and I was probably at that time maybe 30 years old, 28 or 30, and I'd hit my stride and was doing some good things, and he stood beside me, and he goes, "Boy, if I was 20 years younger, I'd be right beside you." So I think it was in my DNA. And then my mom was a pretty good card player at the casino. So.
I think growing up on a farm prepares you for almost anything in life. There's not a lot of lessons that you can't learn in a farming operation.
All life lessons.
It's funny because the pits, when I was there, they were open from 7 to 2, and people were like, "Oh, man, those are great hours." Well, from 7 to 2, you're standing trading nonstop. And then, obviously, just like any job, you got to prepare before and after. So it's a lot of work and a lot of stress, but people would leave during the day to take breaks and this, that, and other. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I've got air conditioning. I got a sandwich in my pocket. I'm good." This is way better than that cabless tractor my dad put me on.
Y'all don't even know.
I didn't know you could even tie those two things together, but we somehow found a way to do it. Yeah. So where does Mary Frances come into the picture? And I guess you can speak on your family a little bit before we delve into some more.
That'd be great. So, I met Mary Frances. She's a Hill girl from Macon, Mississippi. So I met her at Mississippi State, and she taught school in right outside of Memphis. And the reason why she was teaching there is because it paid the most money. So, but you can imagine it's pretty tough school. So she taught there for 3 years till I made enough money to bring her to Chicago and get married. She wanted to get married earlier, but I told her being single and broke is fine, but being married and broke does not sound like a good plan to me. So, so anyway, maybe 3 years later, she came up, and so she's been up there, and we've raised 3 kids there, Swayze, Blake, and Lucy, and they've all come back to school for college down south, and then the 2 boys that you guys know, Swayze and Blake, are working for me. Swayze's been with me almost 6 years now, and Blake about 2. And they had to go off and do some other jobs first and actually earn their way back in to bring some talent, some skill sets, which they've done. And they were in the consulting world. And then Lucy works for ConAgra in brand management. So, so good. They all live within maybe 2 miles of us in Chicago, so it's kind of a strange deal. They worked other places and came back there, so it's been great.
Well, I would say it's been neat for me to see over the years growing up around y'all, seeing you at ball games and whatnot, then seeing Blake in school and then now Swayze more, how they've still had the love for the Delta or for Mississippi just as much as you have, over the years. That's been neat to see for somebody that's grown up a ways away, for so many years.
We did. I'd give Mary Frances and I did a good job there. We brought them back here to see their grandparents a lot, and we'd come back for holidays, football games, just any excuse to get the whole family together. And we still do that a lot. All the grandparents, my parents and Mary Frances' parents are gone, but the kids certainly have a connection to the land down here, no doubt about it, and love it. Love it.
Yeah. Well, look, talk to us about the FSB and how you started it, and then we'll dive into those details.
Yeah, absolutely. So FSB started I've been in Chicago now. This is tough to say, but it's almost 37 years. So FSB came about in 2006, about 18, 19 years ago. I was doing investments on the side while I was trading, and I was investing in hard assets. And investing in actually a lot of land, farmland and apartment buildings and different things that I considered a little bit illiquid, because those markets, they give it and they take it away. So I didn't want cash sitting in the account, so I would drain my account and buy hard assets. Over time, when I was getting toward the end of my trading, the whole game I'd been there for 18 years. The game was changing to the high-frequency trading game, all technology, where it's just arbitrage now, and you don't have the pit traders. So I was 40 years old, and I was doing all this investing on the side, and it was becoming my passion, quite honestly, to operate these cattle operations, these farms, run these real estate investments. So I started. I literally pulled the plug on the computer and stopped trading. And it was pretty emotional because that trading takes a lot out of you. And my wife literally dropped to her knees and sobbed because it taken a toll on all of us. I mean, like I said, it's good financially, but it's a tough way to make a living.
Stressful.
Yeah, it's a tough way. There weren't any vacations because the markets are always on, and I didn't have a salary. I had to be there to make it if the market was going. So, long story short, it's one of those deals where I don't know. It takes a toll, but hey, it led me to the point where I could do some things where I think I could help some people and maybe give people not only on my team opportunity, but even invest in businesses where I could give them opportunities. So FSB started where we have an acronym there. It's called REAL. We invest in real people and real assets. And it's REAL, and it starts with real estate, and we do a lot of private equity deals as far as equity, meaning anywhere from healthcare deals to technology deals to energy companies to asset management companies. And we also do, as you guys know, a ton of agriculture and ag business deals. And then we also do some creative lending deals. The whole concept of going from a trader to building these businesses, I had to learn how to build a team around me and delegate better than trading. Because trading, I pulled the trigger on every single trade.
Right, hands-on, yeah.
Hands-on. I had a team around me, but I had to pull the trigger. On this, I've surrounded myself with a really good team. It took a long time to really kind of build it out, but we have a team that concentrates on operations, technology, accounting, finance, and marketing. And I would put them up against anyone that anyone could bring aboard. Goldman, J.P. Morgan, anybody like that. They have an incredible background. But what we can do is we can take a startup or a company, even like Delta Grain, and we can put resources behind it that can handle the accounting part of it, the operations part, the oversight. And then you got to obviously have your own site management as well. And then you mesh the two together. And kudos to my team at Delta Grain for honestly messing with my team and never questioning the way we put things together. Because honestly, and you guys know Warren has told me many times, he goes, man, you guys have taught me so much more about business than I did. And I said, well, yeah, you've taught us about running an elevator. So it's been a win-win for both sides. So anyway, it's that's sort of the way the FSB company started. It has just kind of evolved, and just like anything else, it's all about building relationships and meeting people and then finding opportunities. And people have asked me many times, how do you source your deals? And I don't know. They just evolved. Things just happen, just like Delta Grain. It just happened. But you got to have a passion for that area and a desire to go in there and give it your all, or you know, it's going to take you down because it takes a lot of time and effort.
Well, I think it's a neat concept that there's so many businesses out there that are struggling in a certain area, you know, or get bogged down in something that's not the moneymaker.
Yeah.
You know, they know how to. I think elevators, Delta Grain is the great example that they know how to run the elevator, but needed some help on some other things that y'all are specialize in, and so that's just a great partnership there. And I assume that that's happened in a lot of other businesses that you're involved with that you know are seeking out, or you know.
Well, you as you know, Gaston, I mean that elevator depends on volume because your margins are going to be what they are. I mean, some years they're better than others, just like farming, but they're never just going to be extravagant. So you got to be efficient with your operations. That's where you're going to end up making your difference or your money. So you know, the way we handle our accounting, the way we handle the operations there, all hands on deck. It certainly helps it to be successful because not an easy business, but it's a good business if you run it right.
Yeah. Well, speak on. You've kind of got a note here that I noticed that you speak on Mississippi being a pro-business state. You know, you've dealt with a whole lot of states, but how do you see Mississippi comparing to others? We see nowadays a lot of with our current governor and a lot of stuff they put out. You know, some things you don't know, you believe it or not, because we're not involved in it. But I think you are involved in a lot of businesses in different states that you can speak on it. So, how does Mississippi separate itself from others?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, one of the things that bothered me when I came back and started talking to farmers about, because I was testing the water to see if they would if I could earn their trust back to come to Delta Grain. And one of the things I kept hearing over and over was not just about elevator, but why in the world would you come back here to start a business? And that just, quite honestly, bothered me because I look at Mississippi and I'm, even without the pro-business environment we have, I'm bullish on Mississippi. One, because the natural resources we have, the water we have, and then the people we have here, it's hard. I've been to a lot of different places. You can't put all that together. And then also, you know, the best resource we have here is our people, not just the workforce, but I'm just talking about the attitude and the way people come down here with me, and they literally are like, they can't believe the way people treat them. So Mississippi's a special place. But then you throw in an environment like we have now that's pro-business. And when I mean pro-business, I mean if you can create jobs, the government, the state government will help you. I mean, they will help you. And they're not going to hand you cash, but they're going to hand you tax credits and different things like that, and some incentives and different things like that, which if you're running a good business, they come in handy, right? I mean, so things like that. They're also very intrigued by our CapEx and different investments we're making and things like that. So they'll come in and potentially help on that. I don't mind telling you they helped some on the solar deal because they were really interested in being progressive and different things like that. And I thought that sent a strong message, not only from us to do the solar deal, but also for Mississippi to come in and help on that. And we had a lot of people on that day when we did the solar deal that came in, and they wanted to copy that same concept. I've talked to 7 or 8 people. There's some actually in New Albany and different areas that been quite interesting to watch it unfold. So that's good. So it just kind of feeds on itself. It goes back to what I was talking about earlier before we turned the mics on. I think I think Mississippi and the Delta in particular, just brick by brick, it's going to take a while, but I mean, I'm very optimistic and bullish on it. And the good news is I talked to enough people out there. They're out there. I hate to say it, but there seems like there's more people who talk negative than positive, and we just got to get that turned around.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's a lot going for it.
Yeah.
It just needs to be, the potential needs to be unlocked.
Yes.
So
For sure.
But look, you kind of mentioned Delta Grain. I'd like to go a little more in detail on that.
Sure.
How did that come about for you? How did that get on your radar?
It's funny because people think this is like my first investment down here, but I've been investing in Mississippi for probably 20, 25 years. I bought land in LaFleur County outside of Swifttown, I think in 99. So that's, 26 years ago. So, but anyway, and invested in apartment buildings and marinas and different things. Just hasn't been enough stuff in the Delta, but this was my chance. Honestly, when I heard about it, to make a mark in the Delta. You guys may know this guy. His name is Don Stallings from Indianola. He's sort of he's a CPA consultant to farmers. Very smart guy. He's retired now, but I think he'll still help you out if you give him a call. But he literally put out an email that landed on my desk in Chicago saying, hey, this going down is going to be tough on farmers. It's going to be tough on our community, you know. And it wasn't like directed directly at me. It was just like sort of like asking for help. You know what I mean? And so I called Don, and John Stratton knew Don well. And then we got to set up a tour and went to Delta Grain and just to see what it would. And Gaston, I had your dad meet me over there. Like, I just need some people who I know enough about elevator, but I don't know how to run one. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to kind of. But when I saw it, you could see the assets were there. But it was going to take a lot to get that thing running for that season. And if it missed that season, it was going to be brutal. So
yeah, because what time of year was that meeting?
So the first time I saw it was in October. And then, you know, it sounds like you got plenty of time before harvest, but this is a bankruptcy process. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine how long and slow that is. So, you know, I'm just, my head's spinning going, because if you miss this year, one, farmers are going to find somewhere else to go or find some other means to store their grain. And then two, they're going to be really mad then because the facility wasn't up and running. So
a lot of disruption.
A lot of disruption. So it was a fight against time. And anyway, I don't know how deep you want to get into it, but I went to Aberdeen to the bankruptcy process and actually won the bid for the elevator assets, and another group won the bid for the oil oil processing facility assets. And we put our bids together, an aggregate bid, and then literally it was done. And the bank has one trump card, and they credit bid us, and they wouldn't even give us what their price was. They just kept going over whatever I would put out there. So they credit bid us. So we walked away pretty disappointed, and that was probably in February or March, end of February. So I re-engaged with the bank, and they hired some investment bankers and started the process all over to sell Express Grain, all over again. And literally the conversations I was having with the investment bankers, they just didn't have the background. And, I mean, I had more background in grain elevators than they did. So long story short, I talked with them for quite a while, and I got them to come to Chicago, and I kept them sort of hotboxed them for about 12 hours in my office, told them they couldn't leave until we got a deal done. And I said, if you don't sell the thing, you guys don't get paid. So they were having trouble just kind of putting it all together. And we ended up getting the board of directors of the bank to engage with us that day and sort of drew up a quick LOI. And I got the group that was going to work on the oil to come back in, and we put that bid together, and literally I put a deadline on it, June the 30th, that it had to be closed by then because I knew we'd be harvesting corn in 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. It closed June the 30th, literally. And
wow.
My accountant, who was handling a lot of the paperwork on my side, she had her baby, like, I think the next day. So she was right at the wire, too. She always reminds me of that, Gaston.
That's some persistence.
Yeah, you met Coleman before. She's quite, quite talented. But anyway,
That's a wild story.
Yeah. So anyway, so okay, we bought it.
Yeah, that's half the battle.
And I called my brother Hardy, who was watching this whole process, and just kind of like, going, "Why are you trying to do this? Why are you trying to buy this?" And when I had bought it, I called him when I had to actually the deal was officially closed. I said, I got it, Hardy. I said, I got my team here. We're all hands on deck. And he goes, his exact words were, "Good God, what have you done?" So anyway, but I wouldn't change a thing. And within 4 weeks, we were receiving corn. And obviously owe a lot to Warren and Reuben. Those guys, I was able to go back and find some talent that was on that pre-existing team and had knowledge of the facilities, and then we started building around them. Yeah,
it's quite a turnaround.
I think it saved the community, to be honest with you. I mean, we don't have to get,
I don't know about that.
Tied up. I mean, really, though, saving some jobs, and then, like you said, how much disruption it would have been for what we've relied on for so long.
Yeah.
And you get in the groove of things, and you don't think about it. It's a big part of all the ag that we do. You have to take it somewhere.
Sure.
But it's always been there, I would say.
Well, I will say this, Gaston. It was a toxic situation when I was going around visiting. I visited over 200 farmers trying to gauge their interest in coming back and doing business. This was after I bought it. I had done some before, but I could only visit so many because I was dealing with lawyers trying to get the thing bought. So afterwards, I'm running around talking to people, and it was toxic. I mean, and it's not a good thing to go see a 75-year-old man in tears because he's thinking he's retiring, and now his son who's going to take over has got to go back to his job, and the 75-year-old is going to put another 5 to 8 years in if he can. And it just so it changed a lot of people's lives if they didn't lose it altogether. So I think I took it as my goal was to try to, in some way, shape, or form, obviously help that disruption, but also change that toxic feel that was in the air to something positive. Now, saying to save the community, hey, that'd be great if that's, but just to change the momentum a little bit. That momentum felt bad when I came down here. It really did.
Well, it was a bright spot, and it's obviously still some lingering effects from all of it, and it was a lot of bad at that time. But it was something that you could try to get your mind off of, and say, okay, this is handled, and we're still okay in this area. Yeah. Even though we're still dealing with the bad, but I think it was a bright spot, and that's what you had to go out and focus on when you were trying to sell it to so many.
That's right. That's right. I wouldn't. I think I said this. I've told the story a few times that a bunch of civic deals and talking to people, but if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it all over again. But it'd be nicer if I was like 40 to start instead of. It took a toll, but I've got a lot of good young people that are beating the drum for me and carrying it forward. So it's been great. I mean, and we're there all harvest, and honestly, my boys feel like they're part of the community, and they love it, and I can tell Warren and Reuben have pride in their step for what because their heads were hanging low too. I mean, it's just a tough deal all the way around.
Bad situation.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we talked a little bit beforehand, but y'all done a fantastic job with community engagement and those relationships and stuff. And I mean, you hitting the roads and campaigning for Delta Grain there, I think it paid off. And like Gaston said, it did a lot for the area.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So what are some other we can talk about the Delta in general and some other investments in the area and kind of we discussed that. The potential's there. Yeah. That it just kind of needs maybe a little kick to get going.
Yeah. So I guess the biggest problem I see in the Delta is we've got to give opportunities to young guys like you guys, like you have here, to stick around. Otherwise, we just lose talent to urban areas, right? And some people are going to go to urban areas regardless. That's fine. I went to Chicago. I mean, I did what I had to do, but if there had been other opportunities here, probably never. I mean, who knows? I never would have left. I would have done something else, and then tried to work my way back into farming later on or something. So, I think the first thing is trying to create those opportunities, and you know how it is. If you build one good business, and then there's different businesses that can go around it. Next thing you know, there's a lot of opportunity, and people are actually moving back into these communities, and that's what we got to have. You know, instead of like I call it. I think I've heard it called the brain drain or whatever. You get talented people leaving. They don't need to go to Birmingham to have opportunity or Nashville or wherever. They need to stay here, you know, and have that opportunity, and then raise kids here in a great, in my opinion, a great environment. But they can't do it unless they have the opportunities. You know? So, and just to be frank, I think we've got to work on our education, you know, and make sure we've got good education for all and continue to.
It's on the rise.
Oh, no, it definitely is.
Mississippi is doing really well right now.
It's the first time, I hate to say it like this, but it's the first time I go around and I'm showing these numbers to people. Like it's a pride factor there, but it's also like, that's part of that building that momentum. So I'm fired up. And then you see the money that's being invested back into this state. And, you know, if it was outside of Atlanta or Chicago, it may not cause a ripple, but that type of money can make a difference here. I mean, you see what's going on around the Golden Triangle area. You see what's going on in Oxford. You see what's going on down on the Gulf Coast. You see, you know, those pockets in Madison and Richmond. Those are some good pockets here where some good things are going on. We just got to spread it around and make Greenwood and Greenville and different areas like that a pocket, you know?
Ooh. Something I keep thinking about in your investments. It seems like there's been some focus on the technology side of it. You know, we're talking about Swayze and his involvement on that. Have you kind of looked at businesses that struggled in that area and implemented new practices and technology to advance their business?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and I would say that's one of our specialties, honestly, because we build custom software for pretty much every business we get into, whether we originate the business or we buy a business. Well, like Delta Grain, I mean, we have taken and just given that farmer and even our end, the admin end, so much more transparency than was there. And then we talked a little bit about a Stewart Link that we're involved with, and the technology that's given the landowner where he can have literally see the progress that's being made on his applications. But it's also really good for the internal team, obviously. So it's been great. So, yeah, a lot of times we'll find businesses that are actually still doing okay. There's no succession plan, right? And the son or daughter have gone somewhere else. They don't have an interest in the business. There's been no money invested in sales, technology, or marketing for a while, and it's still making money. I think we can go in there and juice something like that up pretty quickly. So that's a lot of what we do. I will say that a lot of our investments lately at FSB have just been spinning out of opportunities that we have, and we've done several different ag investments locally here that have spun out from just relationships I've developed at Delta Grain and being down here all the time, you know, and just getting to know the people. You know, it all goes back to relationships. You start meeting with people. I spent several hours yesterday at Mississippi State where there's just some products that are really cool, but they're not really in the business of commercializing them. But I mean, hey, this is something that the farmer could really use, you know, or and it could be something we could layer on to our farmer as an opportunity. Like, hey guys, you can grab this right here, this type of application, this process, or whatever it is that's coming out of the school there. So, you guys know it's slow to adopt until you get it in the right hands, and you get that technology that you guys are working on, or that we're working on, and you get the right influencers' hand. Then there's what I call FOMO. Everybody wants to do.
That's right. Exactly. We see it every day here.
There's a lot of people out there that if it's not broke and they're steadily doing what they want to do, that they're not going to advance. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Oh, for sure.
And you probably see that in a lot of businesses you come on to.
I've bought businesses, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to change and all that. And literally one of the things a lot of times they say, well, this is the way we've always done it. I'm like, okay.
Not broke doesn't mean efficient.
Sitting in stagnant water, got to get it going.
Yeah. So, and you know, you got to, you got to bring in the people that know how to take advantage of that and take a good company and make it into a great company, right? So that's the goal.
Well,
You sound like Jim Collins over here. Good to great.
I have read that book. It's good.
And I think, back to your point, Gaston, talking about that ag seems to be a major focus of FSB or a large focus of FSB. I think that we're just, the ag industry, and we see this from our angle as well, but there's a lot of technology out there that we know can benefit agricultural companies, but it's just a very sluggish approach, and there's opportunities all around us. I mean, there's stuff in Silicon Valley that could transform what we're doing here in Greenwood, Mississippi in a row crop operation, but it's just that application hadn't been steered towards us. So I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. We're seeing more and more of the See and Spray sprayers, the autonomy. I mean, we had a customer on a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about, he's like, how can there be an autonomous semi-truck driving the interstates of Dallas, Texas today, but yet we have yet to figure out how to get a John Deere 8R tractor to go through a field without somebody in it. And I mean, that's a lot of truth to that.
Oh, for sure.
We're not the focus yet. Now, John Deere's it's coming and it's here, but it's just one of those things. It's like, how are we not there yet?
Well, you think
You got to have open-minded farmers.
Yeah. Yeah, well, think about this, Riggs. This was in the mid '80s when I told you the GPS thing was going on, and we're still. I mean, and we've got it dialed in, but I mean, not like we do in the trucks and the taxi in Vegas that you hop in where there's nobody driving, and you're on the expressway.
Is that what it is? The Waymos?
Yeah, my dad sends me videos every time he gets in one of those and just blown away.
Yeah, well, by the way, I got to give Paul a shout out too, because that Paul and John Stratton put together an Excel spreadsheet when I was visiting all those farmers, and it was well over 200, and we would just check that thing off and just hit the road and just pound the pavement. So, and I saw back roads in LaFleur. I thought I knew this area. Oh no, I didn't know. And then Tallahatchie. I mean, I saw areas that I didn't even know. Beautiful areas, incredible farms. I mean, it was really eye-opening for me because being from Sunflower County, you know how it is. You just sort of stay there, and that's where you grew up, and that's where you work. You don't get back of these farms. And so anyway, the amount of people I met and the doors they opened and the time they helped put into it, that was awesome too. So those are two guys who were just, and John didn't work for me at that time. They were just giving back their time to the community as well because, like you said, they knew how important it was.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I've said it and we'll say it again, I'm sure, but I think it was a great approach, and you just going and listening to those stories and letting somebody talk to you about the issues they were having, what they saw for the future and whatnot, and then building that trust, and gaining that trust.
Gaining good relationships back.
That's right.
Rebuilding.
It was a great approach, and I remember when those days were going on.
Oh, they were long.
Riding those turn rows and gravel roads and finding people out in the field, and I don't know.
Hey, look, you knew talking to some of them, you're planting that seed for 2 years down the road. Literally, they were still too hurt to do it that year, and they weren't going to do it the next year probably, but maybe 2 years down the road. I mean, seriously, that's how tough it was sometimes. And then others were more receptive, who it just all depends. I mean, unfortunately, also a lot of it depended on how bad some of them got hit with it. Some got hit worse than others. So.
I bet your Delta roots helped you out there, though. You weren't just this.
There was a connection.
It certainly
big name from Chicago coming down here trying to save the world. Like you weren't investing back in the.
It certainly helped, and my dad, Paul and I talk about this all the time. Our dads gave more time than they really had to try to help the Delta. I mean, he was heavily involved with Delta Council and just school board and just whatever needed to be done, and so I just felt like, hey, next man up, time for someone, the next person to do this, right? And the next generation. And then, by the way, you guys are the next generation, so looking forward to see what you guys do.
No pressure.
Yeah.
They don't want me if they're doing nothing.
What would be your take on the future of our current climate in ag? We're in a downward trend. Mm-hmm. We've said it multiple times on the podcast, and we all know it. What do you see next year, 5 years, 10 years down the road?
Yeah, so again, I'm an optimist by nature. That, and my wife reminds me of that all the time, even when things look pretty tough, and they are pretty tough right now. This is tough. I don't know what it takes to change it, but I do like the fact that we're trying to become more self-sufficient, right? With in creating up in the RVO so that we can eat up some of the soybean demand, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen with China. But and literally, I saw trades the other day where China is buying beans from Brazil at a net 35 cents over what they could buy it from us for. That's sending a message.
Yeah, it is.
That's a message like going, So I don't think we can. I would never count on them, and if they do come back, we know what happens. It moves the needle real quick. But I like us trying to become self-sufficient, and with this soybean demand, and hopefully there's going to be enough demand for this processing, and also where we can keep it here and then export meal, and then obviously we'll use all the oil here, based off the mandates we have to. So and then obviously corn has ethanol to kind of help it out. But I'm also optimistic we're going to create hopefully a little bit of some trade, some good trades that people are sort of, for lack of a better word, forced into, right? They can suck up some of what China would do. I think we do have some leverage in that standpoint, but it takes a lot to suck up what China was pulling. I mean, you can get a deal with Indonesia or Vietnam and all, but it takes a lot.
You need more than that.
It needs more than that.
Yeah.
But I do see some promising things as far as the current state of ag. You know how it is. This is from my trading background, but it is literally one of those things where it just gets to a pain threshold, and this is not advice. This is from experience. Just hang on just as long as you can because it'll come back. But I mean, the market goes where it can cause the most pain, and I remember my dad telling me that when I was trying to think through the markets when he was hedging stuff. So if we can just weather this storm, I think we'll come out of it and it'll be more positive. But it's not a quick fix.
You mentioned self-sustainability. It seems like that's the trend we're going towards across all industries for the United States because of what's happening in trade. It's some painful times during that. I think a lot of people would agree that's the way we need to go.
Yeah.
Man, we've relied on so many outside for so long that there's going to be some growing pains through it.
Well, the Ukrainian crisis was all about food, in my opinion, and food is going to be the power in the food security and the global trade of it. So I think that was those guys just trying to make sure they were self-sufficient, right? I mean, because and so to me, that's honestly, I was trying to negotiate this deal with those investment bankers at the same time that Ukrainian crisis was going on. Like, I was sort of, I don't know if I can say that, I was sort of pissed, but because I was like, oh man, this is going to raise the price. Because in my opinion, that elevator was that much more valuable because the food security and the transportation, all that stuff is going to be, at some point, to control that food supply, it's going to be a very valuable thing, I think. So the main reason I think a lot of the big boys did not bid against me at Delta Green is just literally the liability and toxicity of the thing.
Yeah.
They weren't going to do that.
They weren't going to do what you did.
They weren't going to do it.
Yep.
They weren't going to deal with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, look, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I wouldn't mind having another episode just on like international trade and economics.
Well, hey, I'll come back. This is a sweet setup.
That's right.
Give them some rapid fire.
Well, look, and I want to. I mean, I kind of want to start with give us some advice. You said we're the next. What's the advice for the next generation of investors, and then maybe specifically for the Delta?
That's a good question. So I mentioned this earlier. You guys already seem like you're well on your way, but it's all about relationships, and building those relationships as you go along, even from childhood all the way through college, and while you're building your businesses and all. So I'm just huge on that because most of what I've been able to attain goes back to relationships and picking up the phone and making phone calls and making deals happen and things like that. And if they know your character and your trust and all, you're going to always be good. But also, again, I think you guys are way ahead of the curve on this. you got to always surround yourself with smart, ambitious, determined people in my mind, because if you've got that type of crowd around you, and or you're working with that type of crowd, and or you're building a company with that type of people, committed. I'd rather have a committed, determined individual than a really high IQ individual any day. It's just, now if you get a high IQ and a determined one, that's really good.
There you go.
Hit the jackpot.
But that just, honestly, it's hard to find. So you just give me somebody, I'd consider myself middle of the road. You give me somebody middle of the road intelligence, but who's just
Willing to learn.
determined and committed and who will persevere. So that my advice would be, as you guys build your businesses and your different things, make sure you find those people. Because, and this is a tough thing to say, but if they're not the one, let them loose fast. Because, hire slow and let them loose fast. Man, I don't know what just happened here, but
I've been waiting to throw a shot for a while. That was my opportunity.
Rick he didn't receive that well.
All I can think about is as FSB grows and continues to fuel the Mississippi economy here, what do you think about moving the headquarters down here?
Oh, hey, look. I tell you what, during harvest season, we're down here quite a bit.
Most of the team is.
By the way, we have a rental house out there on Nolan Howard's land right across the river, so come see us.
So,
We got a few Michelob Ultras in the fridge. Come hang out with us. The problem is we don't get there till about 9 o'clock at night this time of year, but it's all good.
Oh, man.
I'm not going anywhere. And I will say this. You were asking about FSB and getting into ag and all. Ag is my true passion. So another piece of advice is follow that true passion. It is not about, it's not about profits and cash and all that. But if you follow that true passion, it'll be there. The money will be, the ROI will be there. But if you can make a difference in a community, and make less money, that's a good way to go. I mean, because that's what's going to be your legacy when you leave. What difference did you make? So I want to make a difference here. So.
No, I think that's neat. And I've seen it. You've instilled it in your boys and your family as a whole, and we're thankful for that around these parts for sure.
Yep.
So.
Well, look, I know you got a website, fsbcompanies.com. Is that correct?
That's right.
So if anybody wants to learn more about that, you can go there, see the investments. I did notice, I was looking at it a little bit earlier this week, and it looks like Illinois and Mississippi are pretty heavily favored in your investments there. So that's good.
that is. We're spread out, though. We've got a lot of stuff everywhere, but that's where we spend a majority of our time, for sure, right? Kind of in the middle of the U.S.
Well, we love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can catch one of those Mississippi State football games.
That's right.
While you're down here.
Hopefully we're not 2-10 again. That's tough.
We'll follow back up on that.
All right. Last minute thoughts from anybody?
No, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed our time here.
Yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Once-
Appreciate the flexibility. I would like to come back and we'll have some new topics to discuss because, as you know, things change.
Absolutely.
They change pretty quickly.
Well, once it comes out, we want you to send it to all your Chicago buddies. We're trying to make this go
Oh, yeah, we're trying to go
nationwide.
nationwide.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. Swayze and Blake can help me put it out there.
Exactly.
That's our
There we
missing
go.
piece. That's our missing
Your
piece.
social media guy.
Well, good deal. Again, fantastic conversation. We look forward to having you back, and thank you for coming on the tailgate.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.